The clowns in Washington are the people that we need to pay attention to. Clamp down on my freedom of speech? Well, then who's next? Republicans, Democrats, and independents. It is time to stop spearing each other in the chest and realize that they're enemies to the Constitution, both foreign and domestic. And right now, it looks like those enemies are taking shape as greedy and power-hungry politicians aided by serious Marxist revolutionaries who now have a big seat at the table at the Oval Office. Two people at the heart of this problem. Diversity czar Mark Lloyd said this: the progressives of today should take a page out of FDR's media playbook from when the New Dealers were battling conservative print media and a conservative Supreme Court to, quote, fix the great debacle of American capitalism. Hello? And he wondered if modern progressives could commit to creating a media policy that actually serves democracy and promotes diverse and antagonistic sources of news. I have this question to ask. Antagonistic to whom exactly? Only Republican presidents and Tea Party protesters? Because I don't think it's more possible to have a more docile source of news than the newscasters are now to this president. And the other is the regulatory czar Cass Sunstein, who once proposed electronic sidewalks that would post opposing views to every internet search. But he's found an easier way. In fact, in a new book that one of my guests has read, Kyle Smith has already read it. Kyle, what is the name of the name of the book?
The book is called On Rumors. It's by Cass Sunstein, and this is a variant of the old joke. This time it's, we're from Harvard Law School, and we're here to help.
Yeah, okay.
He's a Harvard law professor, an old friend of Obama's. They used to work together at the University of Chicago.
There's a lot of Harvard friends out there. Okay, Seton Motley, Director of Communications at the Research Center, contributed editor to newsbusters.org, and Kyle Smith, he's a columnist from the New York Post. Kyle, so let's start with the idea that they can shut your speech down on the internet without seizing control. They're taking this thing like 6 different ways. This way is just imposing fines on the people who post anything, right?
It's for people who operate blogs. It's for news organizations that operate blogs. He even says that bloggers should be really responsible for what their commenters post. That's like you hosting a living room and someone comes into your living room and starts talking.
Yeah.
You're responsible for that person. And what Sunstein wants to do, essentially, is to broaden the libel law, right? To him, there's just too much free speech in America. He talks about the marketplace of ideas, and he rejects it. He talks about the chilling effect, and he says that's a good thing. The chilling effect, we've heard about this for decades, from Supreme Court decisions all the way on down. The chilling effect is something we've been told to guard very much against. Sunstein says the chilling effect can be an excellent thing.
Explain the chilling effect.
The chilling effect is basically calm down a little, think twice about what you say, right? And if you're saying something that's false or that might hurt someone's feelings, Sunstein thinks that there need to be stronger safeguards to stop these things from being said. And it's true, on the internet there's a lot of stuff that's false, and there's a lot of stuff that's malicious.
Right.
But the thing about America is we do have the First Amendment, and we have a marketplace of ideas. The bad ideas shrivel up and die. The good, correct ideas are the ones that win. That's not good enough for Sunstein.
Okay, so now let's go to Mark Lloyd, because Mark also has some. Let me give. First of all, here's Mark Lloyd. Here's from a conference for media reform. This is him making a case that the government controlling all the media outlets is a good thing. Listen what he had to say here.
Venezuela, Chavez, really had an incredible revolution, democratic revolution, to begin to put in place things that were going to have an impact on the people in Venezuela. The property owners, the folks who were then controlling the media in Venezuela rebelled, worked frankly with folks here in the U.S. government, worked to oust him, but he came back in another revolution, and then Chavez began to take very seriously media in this country.
Okay. He said, and I find this interesting, a democratic revolution.
Yes.
Important, isn't it?
Yes.
Because they're all talking about what's good for the democracy.
Right.
We're not a democracy in the first place.
Well, in the first place, we're a republic. But he, in his book, Prologue to a Farce, he repeatedly refers to democratic reform, democratic change. And every time he means democratic, you might as well insert socialist and or communist, because that's truly what he means.
Right. Well, that's what I've done a lot of study on the early American 20th century progressives, and they changed it. They went specifically for democracy,
right?
And that's the way they get away with it. They got away with it in around the turn of the century, saying we're not communists. We believe in the democratic society.
Right.
Democracy and communism to them is almost interchangeable.
It's semantics is all it is. So ideologically, there's no change. And can I point out something very important? What he says about after he got his second revolution and ensconced himself firmly in power, he took very seriously the media in his country. Let's analyze what Mark Lloyd was admiring, what Chavez did.
What did he do?
Well, there's three stories. One of them in May 7th, the Associated Press, NGOs warn of restrictions in pending Venezuelan law. Craft legislation to use to financially strangle groups that criticize the government. Then you flip forward to Friday, July 10th, in the Irish Examiner. President Chavez's government is imposing tough new regulations and revoking the licenses of more than 200 radio stations.
Okay. He's planning. Mark Lloyd is planning on doing that through diversity.
Through the fines, through the regulations, through the fees.
Correct.
And then month later, so in 4 months, you go from the legislation in the body in Venezuela to Venezuelan government efforts to crack down or seize control of media outlets to stifle criticism.
Would you agree with me? And I'm just on the beginning of my research of Mark Lloyd, but he strikes me as a Marxist.
No question.
No question.
At this point, there's no question in my mind from the research I've done.
Okay, all right. What about Cass Sunstein? Where is this coming from? Is he just a control freak? What is this?
Sunstein is one of the main prominent proponents of what he calls behavioral economics. This is basically, you are not smart enough to know what's good enough for you. You need a little nudge in the right direction. In fact, Sunstein wrote a book called Nudge, which was all about how the government can sort of kind of force you to do what the government thinks is the right thing to do.
Okay. Where do we go from here? How likely is it that he's going to be able to get this pushed through?
Well, who knows? I mean, Sunstein is looking at immense power. He's going to head this Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs. Now, it's been reported by the Wall Street Journal that through talks with Obama administration officials, he's going to be in charge of everything from OSHA to EPA. He's going to be looking over financial regulations, climate change,
and everything.
The healthcare plan, everything. He's going to have immense powers as the, quote, regulatory.
Let me give you two more quotes here, and I'll go back to Mark Lloyd here on this. Mark Lloyd said, quote, "It should be clear by now that my focus is not freedom of speech or the press. Freedom is often an exaggeration. Very least, blind references to freedom of speech or the press serve as a distraction from the critical examination of other communication policies." And I love this. I love these ones. How to overthrow a system, he says. Pressure, pressure, pressure. We need to apply pressure and to direct that pressure not at the government, but through the government at our true opposition, the broadcasters. That is phenomenal.
That is where he is. And now he's at the FCC waiting to take those calls.
True or false? Do you think it's an overstatement to say all they wait for is an emergency to be able to do this?
That I don't like to climb into their heads, but that certainly would be a trigger point for them, perhaps.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. We'll talk again. All right.